This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove at the top of the screen and everything that we're talking about here today. So, along with the march for global adoption of XRP as the intermediary bridge asset, bridge currency to serve the world, the march continues. Ripple partners ACI Worldwide and Currency Cloud ink new big deals in Canada and India. Remarkable stuff here, guys. It just doesn't stop. It keeps happening. They're like the Energizer Bunny. Doom, doom, doom. Still going. And it isn't going to stop. And the reason it's not going to stop is because we keep moving into a horrible time with the economy on a global level. Horrible time. In fact, today we're going to bring some evidence that we may be going back to a gold standard to the United States dollar. And if that's the case, I would really likely imagine that the other major currencies of the world would do just that as well. And I don't mean just my opinion. We're going to look at a legislative bill that suggests we're headed that way. We all are well aware of Judy Shelton and her role about going to a gold-backed standard for the United States dollar and the other major currencies of the world by using a gold bond that would be created to do so that is physically redeemable by gold. Okay, but let's get into this because this gets interesting quite quickly. Shout out to Jim Rickards, who is a gold bug, an economist, all-around genius of a guy, and an amazing book author as well. Gold has been doing what it usually does during a stock market rout, down at first because leverage losers in the stock market need cash to margin calls, then up because the smarter players see the handwriting on the wall. Well, not only is Jim right on this, I'm going to tell you, I think he's right tenfold because it really goes to the moon if you were to announce to the world that, the United States dollar, to shore up its weakness, would be returning back to some kind of weighted gold average or gold backing. So here, let's go ahead and look at this. This starts with good news right here, and it's really to show how people are reacting to a really crashed economy, whether you understand it to be deliberately shut down or the fact that it was failing before it was deliberately shut down. I Trust Capital 401k investors flee Wall Street favoring Bitcoin and gold, because they know that the derivatives market and the dollar weakness is very, very real. They are seeking high, dry ground. And this is one of the places that they're going for to check it out. I do happen to have a link for I Trust Capital in the comments section and in the description section. Make sure you check those guys out. Tell Blake I sent you. All right, moving on. This came from, I believe it's Q Morgan here. It says, did you know this was introduced in May of 2019. Well, it hasn't been further than being introduced. I pulled the bill up, and we're still in the introduced stage, right? It hasn't passed the House or passed the Senate to President become law or anything. But the reality is, this is a conversation that is absolutely happening to the point that legislation has been crafted. So let's take a look at this. H.R.2558 to define the dollar as a fixed weight of gold. Boom. Wow. This goes quite nicely with this morning's video about XRP being that neutral reference point asset that would sit between all the currencies of the world, as the major currencies of the world would be going back to a gold standard to handle the fact that they would basically become sovereign currencies and no more need for any one national currency to serve as a global reserve currency. It doesn't for a second mean that anyone's dollar is going to disappear, but in fact, this would suggest that that notion may be a little more real than people even want to believe. Because this is exactly what would need to happen in order to shore up the fiat money. Even if you went to a digital currency, you would want to shore up the value of the weight of that dollar with something like gold to make sure you had the confidence of the people for them to spend it and accept it. All right, let's just take a look at this. It's not a very long bill, so let's just move through it. May 17, 2019, this was submitted to define the dollar as a fixed weight of gold, be it enacted by Senate and House of Representatives. We come down here, Congress finds the following. The United States dollar has lost 30% of its purchasing power since 2000 and 96% of its purchasing power since 1913. Come on in. Under the Federal Reserve's 2% inflation objective, which we just heard from Jerome Powell that they were going to let inflation run hot, the dollar loses half of its purchasing power every generation or every 35 years. Moving down here, American families need long-term price stability to meet their household spending needs, save money, and plan for retirement. The Federal Reserve policy of long-term inflation has made American manufacturing uncompetitive, raising the cost of United States manufactured goods by more than 40% since 2000, compared to the less than 20% in Germany and France. Between 2000 and 2010, United States manufacturing employment shrunk by 1/3 after holding steady for 30 years at nearly 20 million jobs. The American economy needs a stable dollar, fixed exchange rates, and money supply controlled by the market, not the government. That is a remarkable comment, because that's exactly right. It needs a stable dollar, fixed exchange rates, and money supply controlled by the market, not the government. What has happened since, the Federal Reserve is not technically the government, but what has happened since we've seen the Federal Reserve be in control of the money supply? Yeah. Need I say more? The gold standard puts controls of the money supply with the market instead of the Federal Reserve. Exactly. The gold standard means legal tender defined by a convertible into certain quantity of gold. Under the gold standard through 1913, the United States economy grew at an annual average of 4%, 1/3 larger than the growth rate since then and twice the level since 2000. The International Gold Exchange Standard from 14 to 71 did not provide for a United States dollar convertible into gold and therefore helped cause the Great Depression and stagflation. The Federal Reserve's trickle-down policy of expanding the money supply with no demand, it has enriched the owners of financial assets but endangered the jobs, wages, and savings of blue-collar workers. Restoring American middle-class prosperity requires change in monetary policy authorized to Congress. So there it is. Effective 30 months after the date of the enactment of this act, the Secretary of Treasury, referred to as the Secretary, shall define the dollar in terms of a fixed weight of gold based on the day's closing market price of gold. The Federal Reserve banks shall make Federal Reserve notes exchangeable with gold at the statutory gold definition of the dollar. During the 30-month period, the following date of the enactment of this act, the United States government shall take timely and reasonable steps to disclose all of its holdings of gold, together with the contemporaneous report of any United States governmental purchases or sales, thus enhancing the ability of market and market participants to arrive at a fixed dollar gold parity in orderly fashion. Wow. May of last year, this bill has been submitted and introduced to the House. Obviously, it has a ways to go, but the reality here is we know that Judy Shelton is a huge proponent to going back to a gold standard and a back to the future cryptocurrency way, as she says. Now, she needs to get confirmed in the Fed, she needs to have a full floor vote on the Senate to fully confirm her. So that is the only thing. Now, they say, up to the most recent information to be found, that she has the votes to be passed. She has the votes to be passed. They just need to do the vote. So you take all of this into consideration and you tell yourself, okay, what we're looking at here is the potential, and Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has been very clear on the fact that he would love a gold standard. The Fed would not love a gold standard because it would handcuff them to the amount of printing they could or could not do. There's the rub in the road. But the reality is the confidence. Confidence is something that you just can't say when on. See, confidence is an imaginary line in the sand. Not just with consumers or you and I out at the mall getting a haircut or buying sneakers. Confidence comes from the institutions and the governments around the world because the dollar is the global reserve status right now. It has been made very clear by Russia asking the other countries in the BRICS coalition to stop accepting the dollar for trade and to begin going to another source of settlement, even if they use their own currencies. It has been no mistake that the IMF has made the case to do an external adjustment to the dominant currency, the US dollar, against all other currencies as of 2 weeks ago. The IMF is to hold a meeting from October 12th to the 18th to discuss things like this and many more. This is the year, every 5 years, that they evaluate the special drawing right, the SDR basket of currencies. If they are going to reevaluate how to address the debasement of the US dollar, it would make sense that this bill sits in, or one just like it, to be submitted and voted on and eventually passed, would be in the waiting, in the wings, just like Judy Shelton, to employ such a movement to shore up the confidence, that imaginary line in the sand, so it does not get crossed to a point of no return. But what I do think has happened is the eventual global reserve status of the United States dollar will be gone. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't still use the US dollar as a unit of account, but the medium of exchange for trade could certainly become a neutral reference point asset like XRP. Sounds futuristic, but that is the goal. That is the goal. And the truth of the matter is in the long term, it would be better for the US dollar for it to come down as the global reserve currency, because the dollar is meant and designed to serve the nation's needs. And if you could have a intermediary bridge asset, bridge currency like XRP in the middle of all currencies and supply chains and trade and derivatives settlement, you no longer have to carry the burden of what is good policy with your currency for the world. And you could simply control the currency, the nation's currency, for what's good for its citizens. This is pretty remarkable to me that this bill is out here. I was not aware of this bill. But when you couple the idea of going back to a US dollar backed by gold, it's very comforting to me. And it's comforting to me in the manner that I believe it helps bring accountability and some, I guess the best way to say it is some borders, right? Or some defining measurement to where the Fed can't go but so far. Because up until now, there has been nowhere that the Fed is not willing to go. And they always tell us it's for us. It's always for us and the children, right? But the reality is it's for themselves. Because up until now, the $7+ trillion that's been printed, generally speaking, has been bottlenecked at the top to buy back mortgages and private corporate bonds. All right, guys, I just wanted to bring this to you because I think it's so important this day and age, where we are in this moment with the digital asset space and the traditional markets and the current economy situation. There is a convergence happening as well as the birth of a digital asset space. Head on a swivel out here. You never know. This is crypto. All right, guys, hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. I'll catch all of you on the next one. Oh, and by the way, 20% off sale on Ledger Nano right now. Hit the link if you haven't got one for you or your family member. Keep your stuff offline. Cold storage, best protection, cold storage right there. It's the Ledger Nano, 20% off now, limited time offer only. Link in the description or the comment box. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. I'll catch all of you on the next one.